let's go ahead and make this one the first official topic. That's not just me ranting about something. That's not just me getting angry and letting that out here on stream. Let's go ahead and do this right the first time. So, here, like with every other topic, we are going to go ahead and showcase a little bit of fan art first. This one is from Axo. Said, Suris said you could wave a stick and make new laws, so behold, the law stick. I use this as an excuse to mess around and be silly. The next piece of fan art we have is from Pernia. And this is this is literally just how I cook. This is literally just how I cook with sake. It needs more garlic. Always more garlic is required. Thank you for your fan art submissions. If you want your fan art to be shown in a future video, the best way to do so is to drop it into the fan art section of the Discord. That said, let's go ahead and get into something. So a very important thing right now is going to be convincing people that you are right. I know that sounds weird, but as of right now, one of the most important things you can do is know how to be convincing. And the first step to learning how to be convincing is to recognize that you are not convincing at all. No argument you give is convincing. No data you give is convincing. That's the first bit. That's the most important bit to internalize. And I know that sounds counterintuitive. I know it does, but trust me, I am going somewhere with this. When you first recognize that you are not convincing, then you have to ask yourself, what really convinces somebody? Well, it's somebody else. Somebody else's subconscious needs to be convinced of a thing for them to believe something. We can't control our beliefs. You can give all the correct data to somebody, and if they just either don't want to believe it or their subconscious has been reinforced against it, that's it. You're never going to be able to convince them of anything. Also, AryXD, thank you for redeeming your points for an you fucking degen. Now, how do we convince somebody of something if we personally cannot convince them of something? Well, you have to get them to convince themselves of something. And that's a whole lot harder, because I can tell you the things that make me convinced of something. I can tell you why I think trans people are valid, but I can't make you believe trans people are valid. So how do I make you believe trans people are valid? Again, I cannot make you believe that, but I can lead a horse to water. Now, how do you do that? Is it by handing them data? No. Data is for supporting a point. Data is for reinforcing that you are right. Data hardly ever convinces people that you are right. It is an important thing to have by your side so that you know you're correct. It is not an important thing for convincing somebody, because it very rarely is the thing that convinces people. People are convinced emotionally. So do you want to know how to make somebody reevaluate what they think? The Socratic method. Now, what is the Socratic method? Most of you have probably heard of it. Most of you probably know what it is. Most of you are probably typing away in the comment section right now, and if you are, thank you so goddamn much. I need every single bit of engagement this video can have, so whether you're telling me I'm stupid or fat, and that's why I'm hiding behind an avatar, that's also why I go to the gym. Thank you. You are doing nothing but helping me. So, if you are to convince somebody, you need the Socratic method. And the Socratic method boils down very simply to asking somebody, hey, why do you believe that thing that you believe? Why do you believe that thing? That's all it is. That's all the Socratic method is at the end of the day. Thank you for the stretch, Artemis. With the Socratic method, let's go ahead and run through an exercise right now. Real quick, chat, what's a really common belief that you've seen right-wingers say that is likely wrong? Access says Suris fan art is in the background of the Zoom. It is, because there is no, so if I get rid of the monitor, There's actually nothing there in the background of the Zoom. I can kind of put that there, though. That kind of fixes it. There we go. There's Vulpix in the background. The Zoom is now correct. Everything has been fixed. How's it going, Swede? Jessa says, a common belief is trans people are just their sex. Almo says autism is bad for some reason. You know what? Let's go with the autism one, because with the new administration, there's funding that's being cut to things like cancer research, which means there's likely going to be funding cut to vaccine research. And vaccine research, anybody who's done any amount of research into vaccines has probably come across the vaccines cause autism shit. So let's go ahead and go with that one real quick. So when somebody says autism is bad, you don't want to have autism, go ahead and ask them why they believe that. Ask them why they believe autism is bad. Now, there's a lot of different responses you can get. They may point you to people who are what were commonly referred to as low-functioning autistic people. They may point to all these other things. And what you can do is you can start proving them wrong by saying, actually, look at all of these autistic people who have done so much good for society. But, hear me out here. Don't fucking do that. Instead, ask them, can you think of any examples of an autistic person who positively influenced society? Can you think of any people who are autistic who have been famous or done great things for society? If they can't think of any right then, ask them, well, there are plenty of them. I do know some of them. Not know personally, but I know of some of them. And if you'd like, I can talk to you about them. But if you didn't know about any of the people who are autistic and also have provided a lot to society, then why do you feel that being autistic is a bad thing? If you didn't know enough about it, then why are you so confident in that opinion? And usually that's the moment right there where there's a rub. That's the moment right there where friction is generated. Because, and what I mean by that is people coast on their opinions. People live as if all of their opinions are objectively true, and they pretend that they don't, but that's how all of us operate. All of us operate as if everything we believe is true, because that's just how our brains function. You have to provide a little bit of friction to that idea. You have to make sure that there is a small stopping point in that idea. So once you've generated that friction, oh, there's information I don't know, but I've been so convinced about this thing. They're not yet to the point where they think they're wrong. You've not got them there, and you don't need to get them there right now. All you need to do right now is get them to believe that they may not be right, which is very mechanically different to being wrong. You see, when people are told they're wrong, they tend to get defensive. Now, there's no research to suggest that there is such a thing as an actual backfire effect, even though certain derivatives of the Socratic method have used the backfire effect as an actual thing. It's not really a thing. You're not trying to avoid the backfire effect because data doesn't suggest that happens all the time. What you are trying to do is you are trying to get the person to evaluate their own belief. You don't have to get them to the my belief is wrong, because now they have the hard trouble of recreating that belief differently. And recreating the foundation for why you believe something is really hard, and it's also not your fucking problem. That's a them journey. All you have to do is convince them that they may not be right. You have to get rid of the reinforcement in their brain that what they believe is true. And all you have to do for that is show them that they may not know why they believe something. You see, the beauty of the Socratic method is that all you're really doing is asking why a bunch of times. You just have to have a little bit of cursory knowledge of the subject that you're on. And most people, because we coast on our opinions, Most people will hear the why, and they will go, well, I believe it because X. And then they might not know why they believe X. Not X.com, why would you believe anything on that fucking hell site? But no, they might not know why they believe a particular thing. Why do they believe autism is bad? Well, it's because they are looking at negative aspects of autism. But we have negative aspects of neurotypicality too. So why specifically autism? Why is it not considered a desirable trait? Or at the very least, why is it not a neutral trait? Gattini has it exactly right. Channel your inner four-year-old and just ask why. Why do you believe being autistic is a bad thing? It only usually takes about 3 or 4 movements down that Socratic road before people start questioning their own beliefs. And dear God, the scariest thing an adult human being can do is start questioning their own beliefs. Because once you start questioning your beliefs, you start thinking about the other things that you believe and why they might be wrong. If you get to a point where you can't explain something, why the hell do you believe it? Brutus Magnuson says, I've had the why over and over again method used on me, and it works. It works. Most people don't know why they believe shit. Most people hear something and then adapt it into their ideology without any introspection. And questioning your own beliefs is scary. Because at a certain point, it starts with, why do I believe autism is bad? To, why do I believe certain food groups are bad? Why do I believe certain TV shows are bad? Why do I believe certain aspects of my job are bad? Suddenly you start having this domino effect of everything in your life just seeming incorrect. You can't do anything once somebody gets to that point. But what you can do is lead them to the point where they have that opportunity. As another one, when somebody says, I believe trans people are the sex that they are, so they believe that a trans woman is just a guy. Well, why do you believe that? And when they say, oh, it's because of the penis. Okay, cool. Why do you believe the penis is what makes you a guy or a girl? Why is that part so important? When you go out on the street and you interact with people, do you see their penises? Do you see their vaginas? Like, no. So why is that such an important part to you? It can even help if you yourself are trans or somebody around you is trans, and specifically trans in passing. I say that because we live in a society that is not normative, and if you are going to convince a right-winger that a trans person is valid, you do need a passing trans person. I'm sorry, that is just objectively true here. Brutus Magnuson said it didn't work on me. The dude was wrong, and I basically told him a basic thesis of the scientific method and its origins. Well, what was the thing that he was asking you if you were the Socratic method on? And also, that doesn't mean it didn't work on you. That means that you were right, and you knew why you were right. That means it did work. The Socratic method is... This is the reason why the Socratic method is as good as it is. Its goal is not to make you change your mind. That is not the goal of the Socratic method. The goal of the Socratic method is to make you justify a belief. That is what the Socratic method does. Any other thing past that is outside the scope of what the Socratic method is designed to do. Its goal is make you question why you believe a thing and support that thing. If somebody is using it for the purpose of changing your mind, they are operating outside the scope of what it actually does. This is the reason I have such a problem with street epistemology. Straight epistemology uses the Socratic method to change a person's mind by using techniques like asking about the percentage confidence somebody has in a belief, and then watching that percentage confidence go down, which forces somebody to reevaluate the belief and change it. It's a very leading version of the Socratic method, and it's why I don't like it. It's almost a bit dishonest. Brutus said that changing your mind was his goal. Yeah, then his goal was not aligned with the goal of the Socratic method. Then that was a him problem. Stop says, I started telling people to use this why method on a lot of different things. I tell them to write down the questions they're asking, answers, and then ask them why, to each answer in a chain until they get to the bottom of their thought process. Exactly. You believe the sky is blue. Why do you believe the sky is blue? You believe the sky is blue because you see it and it's blue. Well, why is that a good example of what blue is? Is the sky actually blue? Is that the shade that it is? Is that an optical illusion? Why do you still believe it's blue when there are all these other possibilities there? Eventually you get down the chain and realize maybe color doesn't fucking exist. Like, it can be a wild ride for you, depending on what you're choosing to use it for. Also, Tales of Atonement, thank you very much for resubscribing. I greatly appreciate it. Your goal is not to change a person's mind. Your goal is to give them the tools and the opportunity to change their own mind. I know that that doesn't sound great. What you want to hear is, here's the one tool you can use to convince anyone of everything. That's not how the world works, and that's not how humans work. We are too stubborn a species. And especially when we are primed to not agree with the person across the table from us, it can be that much harder to get them to be convinced of anything. So don't try convincing them of anything. Get them to justify their own belief. Artemis, yes, that is Pokemon Snap in the background. Yes, Taproot, and that is another thing. Don't do this in a public forum, unless this is a thing you and your friends do usually. If you do this in a public forum, what's going to happen is somebody is not going to be they're not going to walk into the conversation trying to be a reasonable human being. They're not going to walk in there trying to seem reasonable. They're going to walk in there trying to feel strong. They're going to walk in there trying to feel confident, trying to feel like they are some pinnacle of uber strength. And so they are going to try to clown on you. They're going to try to get the sound bites. They're going to try to do all that shit. This is a thing you do in a private conversation. Scoring points with the crowd is a fool's fucking errand. That's why I don't do debates anymore. One of the reasons I don't do debates anymore. Scoring the points with the crowd is not the same thing as being right. It is other wrong people thinking that you're right, which is goddamn useless to me. Get them in a private or intimate scenario and just ask them why. Why is scary, but why is effective? Nowhere Fast Media says I was taught this method in therapy. Yes. If you ever have seen the last few episodes of Evangelion, when Shinji is having his personal therapy session with himself, that back and forth dialogue with himself when he's trying to figure out why he acts the way he does to the women around him, that internal dialogue is what you're trying to get the person to do. Why gets you it gets you to the first step of where you want to be. Where we want to be is everybody not being a fucking bigot, but we don't live in that reality. So instead, we need to live in the reality where people need to be convinced of things. And for them to be convinced of things, they need to convince themselves of those things. And for them to convince themselves of those things, they need to first understand that they are not correct. And they won't understand that they are not correct by you explaining to them that they are not correct, because that tends to not work. You need to get inside their head. Hey, thanks for making it to the end of the video. I really could not do any of this without all of you. Those of you watching, and especially those of you who support me on Patreon. I wanted to go ahead and take a minute to thank all of you who do that, because with YouTube being what it is these days, I really cannot do this full time without the support from each and every one of you. Those people would be Red Joker, Purple Poundini, Jemshin, Britzkrieg, Jupe the Malignant, Michael, Ravalern, Mabbity Babbity, Astral Frontier, Tales of Atonement, Nixie Chan, Kiri Artemis, Victorian Alchemist, I'm not saying the last part of that, and you know that, Arcton Arclacier, Kiratorian, Dren Hadamata, Jordan M, John L, Lord Bleck, Smiling Game Master, and Fireshard. Thank you so very much. But since you're here, why not go ahead and try watching another one? There should be one that's on the screen right now. And if you are a patron of mine, I wanted to go ahead and thank you again for all of your support. There is still a video you could press though, if you'd like. I would appreciate it just a little bit.